Gentlemen, welcome to the Arm Wrestling Showcase number 50. You all know our host, Kane Fontecchio with Alpha Empire Arm Wrestling, and myself, Josh Edwards with Nowhere to Run. Tonight, we have a very special guest with us, the Grippler, Ian Carnegie. We're going to be talking about his arm wrestling experience, some of the events that he's been involved with recently, and some of the new exciting stuff that he has been working on to bring to our community. Ian, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Excited to talk to you about arm wrestling. That's all we do, and yeah, having something new to talk about is definitely refreshing and something that we want to get involved in. So, can we first? I'd like to just start out with, can you tell everybody who's watching who might not be familiar with you what got you into arm wrestling, how long you've been involved, what kind of accolades have you earned along the way, stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Well, my name's Ian Carnegie. I'm known as the Grippler. I started in 2005, but my interest in arm wrestling uh, goes back very young. Like as a kid, I won my high school arm wrestling competition. They even put teachers in there to try to stop me. It didn't matter. And it wasn't like I had any technique or anything. It was just, shoulder press hook. You know what I mean? Like just being strong. And, I kind of had that attitude where I would seek out people bigger and stronger than me and actually arm wrestle on not for refrigerators, but freezers or barrack boxes from the army, stack them up. And I would just challenge people wherever we could, and eventually when I joined the army, I was about, a couple of years in, I kept hearing about Devin Larrett, Devin this and that, and he's a great arm wrestler. And of course, I kept missing. Oh, he was just here. Oh, And so about 2 years, I had gone overseas and came back by the time I met him, and we met. He had put a army arm wrestling championships together on my base, and I was playing basketball because I used to be a fit basketball athletic type person. So I met Devin, and he just kept saying, "Get bigger." So I did. Anyway, I entered the Army Arm Wrestling Championships and end up winning that left and right, and it kind of started out like that. Accolades. Unfortunately, I grew up in the era of like Earl Wilson, Mike Gould, Devin Larrett, Rick Heiderbreck. You know what I mean? Like just some of the. So I don't have too many. I have a few provincial titles. I had the Arm Melter Overall Championship, which is Canada's pro circuit. You know what I mean? That Joe Gould used to run. I've got a bunch of second and third place nationals. I haven't really done too much when it comes to championships, but I mean, I've beaten top level guys and elite pullers, and I've had my time in the WAL and pulled arm wars. I've been pulling all over the world essentially, and every once in a while I get stubborn and I beat somebody I'm not supposed to. Yeah, I think, especially if they disrespect me. I did a little quick survey and I realized that all my greatest victories have been when my opponent talks shit.
It's good fuel, right?
Yeah, I get stubborn. Something in my head
Yeah.
switches, and it's not about strength. It's not about technique. At that point, it's like you'll have to break my arm to beat me, and that's it. But the best strategy against me is to be nice and just like show respect and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that. You know what I mean? But if you're like, hey, you're a bum or this and that, and I'm like, oh, I'm a bum. Okay. You know what I mean?
That's
So
awesome.
what was the difference in your style back when you were arm wrestling more casually? You said you would do it in the army and like you did it for fun for a lot of years before you actually got competitive training with a team or anything like that. What would you say the main difference was between how you used to arm wrestle and then how you developed it when you got serious?
It's really interesting. Part of me wishes that I would have continued down that path of developing what I had naturally.
Mm.
I would say, and this might counter a lot of people's training methods, but over the years, I've seen a lot of us try to change people's natural abilities because, the top roll is what you teach everybody first and everything. That's all fine and great, provided that we can allow them to develop what they already have naturally. We all have these weird lanes and strengths, right? And I think people say, oh, don't do that because you're going to bust your elbow or you're going to do this and that and the other thing. And then that person kind of loses that ability. So I would say I was a natural hook presser and just speed. That was like, but I was also very thin, so I could be really, really tight. When I say very thin, I was 250, but I was a basketball player shape. I've always been dense, So that in perspective, I'm now 350.
How tall
So
are you?
just shy of, like, I'm in between 6 foot and 6'1", I guess. So maybe
Mm.
probably a little closer to the 6 foot than 6'1".
Okay.
Everyone I talk to thinks I'm taller than that, and I think what that is everybody who's 5'10" and 5'11" thinks they're 6 feet. So yeah. But anyways, yeah. So, and then I got learning like high hook and top roll, which is great. But I kind of, over the years, I sort of wanted to incorporate my shoulder more because I felt like that's where my torque really came from. And so I would consider my pulling style very similar to Mindigus from Arm Gods, who, like, I just met him and we pulled on the side, and we're like clones of each other. It's the way we pull. Neither of us could each other, it was just like, it was weird. But anyway, so I'm a high hook presser. Like, so I'm not supinating. Like, you'll see a lot of matches where I'm hooking, but it's mostly because they've turned me in. Like, if I could win, it's center table because everybody wants wrist straight. So I'm like, fine. So I down cup and shoulder press really quickly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a rough move. I know a couple of people that are really natural in that move. It's very hard to defend when you do it well.
Yeah, and a lot of the reason I did do that was because, with Ontario, our refereeing is really strict, right? So I kept feeling like they kept turning my wrist backward, like, to be straight. So I got used to just, I said, okay, and then instead of trying to push forward to hook and bring in, it was basically giving my wrist a top roller. So what I thought I would do would just be like hit their cut or hit their rotation immediately off go, and then apply down pressure with my shoulder.
Hmm.
And if which one of you did I send my videos to? You asked me for a few videos of me arm wrestling. Okay, if you look at the guy that I'm arm wrestling, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? Like, the two, guys, they're tall levered guys, top rollers, and I just crash hard on their pronation. And you got to do it quickly because if you don't, then you get stuck in no man's land, and then you get your wrist taken.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's a rough move. I get what you're talking about. Like a lot of what coaches would veer new people a different direction than the press, for sure. Worried about safety and all that.
But
Uh,
look at Jim Blonsky.
right.
Uh, here's a guy that is a mediocre arm wrestler in terms of his technical prowess, beating guys that have way more advanced skill sets because he said, you know what, this is what I'm good at, and he blasts people. But the other side of the coin is, if he doesn't learn to develop those other things, if the press doesn't work, then he's kind of shit out of luck. You know what I mean? You
Right.
know, he should, and I'm seeing, I watch his videos, and I see him training those other core, and give him time. Give him time, and he might surprise us and start doing everything else. You just give him time to develop those things. And as long as but I would still encourage him to continue doing what he's doing, provided his joints can hold up, because he's clearly got a frame that can apply a ton of down pressure. You know what I mean? Like, and still hold up.
Absolutely.
Quite a busy month and a half, I guess, or whenever East versus West 12 was. I was in Istanbul, watched those matches, and then came back and just got back from Knuckles Up last weekend. So it's been and then I got my event. I was gonna go to provincials, Ontario provincials, this weekend, but to be honest with you guys, I feel a bit run down.
Hmm.
You know, I'm just go, and I was sick the whole time in Istanbul, and I'm allergic to cats. And I don't know if you know anything about cats. I even own one, but like there's certain cats that affect me more than others. But do you know about Istanbul?
No, in relation to cats?
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're not owned by anybody, and the city takes care of them. Like people, they feed cats. They build houses. Even there's a bunch of stray dogs too. They have tags in their ears. The city, like, spades them and gives them their shots, and they're kind of like the community animals.
Wow.
Yeah. So while I was there, I had a bit of a sickness, and so my immunity was a little bit low. And then, of course, there's cats everywhere, so I'm getting all the, you know what I mean. So I'm allergic. So yeah, so it's been a tough month or so. I haven't been able to shake this. So I don't know if I'm going to go to Sudbury for provincials. I kind of wanted to because I want to go to nationals this year. Our nationals will probably be the best in a long time. Studs coming out from everywhere, and it's right near Ottawa, so there's going to be full participation from the High Hooker Club, and you get what I mean. So,
Yeah.
but I'll be honest with you, right now, this Mac stuff is literally taking up all my time, whether it's ordering swag or making tables or like modifying my rule set, and it's quite daunting, and I didn't expect it to be so as expensive as it was. Holy crap. But if you want to do something, you got to invest in yourself, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Speaking
Definitely.
about that, the Mac, that's your table, right?
Yeah, and that's my logo. What do you think?
That's an awesome logo. Yeah. No, speaking about that specifically, the the video that you had sent with like the demo match, um, I loved the way, and I'm not sure if this is the way that it's like going for sure, but I loved how you were a few feet away from the table and it was like so much less involvement with the reffing. Like you from a standstill, you had told them close their thumbs, close their hand, and they kind of got their own grip and started pulling. Yeah, I just really like that. And yeah, the table's amazing. I mean, with
So
the
that
pads like that, I feel like you can see all the elbow fouls with the elbow pad being indented in the table. I mean, I feel like that's less likely to slip off the pad, but then also much easier to distinguish if somebody's leaving the plane.
can I,
Yeah,
can I
and
just
the rounded edges. That's a great concept. Everything about it's awesome.
I appreciate that. That table that you got showing right there, that is actually the very first iteration. That was what was in my mind when I was making it. So the table has evolved 4 times since then. So
Okay.
the on this table are greater, like there's more shaved off. So now it's less than that. The the pads, almost everything has changed. The look looks similar to this, but all the dimensions have been changed since that table.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So
love it.
that's the first one.
Yeah.
This one, this
Great.
one has never had a match on it. It's never had a frame. It's actually hanging up in a wall at Mr. McAlpin's gym as Mac Table One, but it's in pristine condition because we recognized all the flaws immediately, and we're like, well, let's scrap this. Well, not scrap it, but modify it. And then we got to the second table, and we thought we got the final product, and it turned out no, there's still lots So that's up on a wall in a different club. Yeah, basically 3 and 4 still exist, and number 3 we ended up tearing apart, and we can modify some things inside to be more like table 4. Yeah, so I think there's right now, I think in existence there is 5 functional Mac tables.
Amazing.
They're expensive as hell to make, though. We really need somebody with manufacturing ability that can find a way to reduce the cost, because but not the quality. I don't want to reduce quality, but I'm basically telling people, like, try to break this table. It's Wagner Border Lotto proof, as I keep telling people.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
that's
There's
a good marketing. Wagner Bordelotto proof.
I was
No,
watching
there.
you on the show on Beer Man talk about the table, and everything about it is amazing. The larger playing field is great. I love the reduction of elbow fouls, and you were even saying it's a bit safer to arm wrestle on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is a lot of it, to be fair, is accidental. You know what I mean? Like, some of the good things about the table that I've been observing, and actually I got a couple books here, but I got a book that I'm going to call the Mac Ledger, and what it is every single match that happens will be recorded, okay, and it'll be basically, okay, you versus me, the date, and it'll have a column that says injuries observed or not, and there'll be like a yes or a no. If it's a yes, then you explain what it is. Well, essentially, I have a theory, and I'm knocking on wood because I don't want to like jinx anybody, but I've seen at least 1,000 practice matches on my table, and nothing so much as a hangnail has been reported.
Huh.
So, I don't want to jinx my event, and then all of a sudden I got 10 broken arms, and you know what I mean? But it is like, I've seen guys attack themselves on this table, and I think the way it's made is so ergonomic that it's allows people to be safe. And if you want me to get into those details, I can.
So
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
The pads are the elbow pads are directly across from each other, right? There's no offset.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So, I think that's one of the biggest things that stands out to me. When I look at arm wrestling 30 plus years ago, that's how their pads were. They were straight across from each other. And a lot of the older guys that I talked to, Scott Wynn, Mike McGraw, people like that, they said the same thing, that they believe that these pads straight across from each other prevents tons of injury.
What was
so
really,
I think that,
what was really fun was the reason that they went to canted pads is they thought that it would prevent arm breaks or reduce them. Now, I personally believe anytime you get into an activity that requires max effort, there's potential for injury, and that no table will save. Okay, the potential is there, but if we can design something that can greatly reduce the risk of it, then that's good as well. Because where someone might have broken their arm at a tournament, perhaps they get on this table and the conditions are set that change, and they don't suffer that injury. And if you'd like, I could get into those changes of my table where I believe greatly reduce the risk. Now, it's all theory, but we're going to put it into practice, and I'm going to record it. And then eventually, if I am right, I'm going to go to these various bodies like IFA and WAF and anyone that'll listen, and I'm going to hand that book over to them with all the signatures, because that's what's going to happen. Is as soon as the match is recorded, I'm going to have each athlete sign it, and I'm going to say, now you tell me why you wouldn't want to protect your athletes like this with these tables. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I fact that when they went to canted tables, the very first championship that they ran, there was 2 broken arms at that event. Now, where I get the
Could you iterate for us some of the things that are in your theory of why it is safer? Could you go into a little bit of detail?
Sure. I mean, first of all, it being ergonomic and you being more comfortable, I think lends a hand to it. But and I'll get into what those things are. But really, the big one is if you look at the arm sumo, so very similar to what Devin,
thinking that,
which is the freedom arm wrestling, right? Over here, we looked at it, and because the action was so crazy, we all rushed to conclusion and said, "Oh, our youths are gonna break their arm for sure. Like, look at this. This is so unsafe. Blah blah blah. Ray," without really giving it a chance or actually asking anybody. But from my understanding, arm sumo in Japan doesn't record. They don't really have broken arms and bicep tendon tears and stuff like that. And my theory behind it is the smaller the playing field. Like, if imagine you took your 7x7 WAF pad and you made it like a little cup and you had your elbow in it. Imagine if all that side pressure and back pressure and everything. I bet you we'd see a lot more increases in arm break, right? Because it's such a static point where all the force is happening, and then it's going to travel up through the joint and probably break up somewhere up in your upper arm.
right?
So I think if you grow it to 7x7, that reduced the chances of arm breaks. And guys went 8x8. I think that even reduced it now. And I just said, fuck it, 8x10. And it's like the table still has my side of the table, your side of the table, pin pads, and elbow pads. So it looks like an arm wrestling table, but it has a lot more freedom. Maybe not quite as much freedom as arm sumo or freedom arm wrestling, but a lot more freedom. So whenever you get in those potential, arm break situations, you have space to alleviate pain. The other thing, it's impossible to do an illegal king's move on my table. And why I say legal king's move, I think there's only a few people to ever do the king's move successfully in a legal manner consistently, and that's like guys like Pascal Girard and Pascal Girard and like Crazy George, because their shoulder is Buddy left us or what's going on?
No, he might just have himself muted. There might be some noise or something like that. But yeah, I'm with you here.
So, and guys' shoulders above the table, and whether their arm straightens or not, it's really irrelevant because every style is beatable. What I don't like is obviously when guys are under the table, it's really ugly. And the reason you can do that on a WAF table, first of all, the specs of a WAF table are fucked up. They really are. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, even the idea of behind it when they said, we're going to create this table based off the average height of the male. And when the friggin' table was made, it was made out the height of a 6-foot man, which is clearly not the average height of a male.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, it's flawed. The corners on arm wrestling tables make zero sense. They injure you, and there's no reason for it. Like, if I don't know how many blown biceps, well, not blown biceps, but like bruised and scratched biceps we have to endure before someone says, hey, maybe we should get rid of these. They're hurting us. No. For 30 years, we kept them. Some people made adjustments, slopes, and I think I will eventually go to a slope table whenever I can get a real manufacturer that can help me. But the other thing too, right? Like we're so anal retentive. All these rules, these strict rules for safety, it's because the table's not ergonomic. It's not meant like, and when you can on a WAF table, when you can put your tricep on the elbow pad, go below the tables, have your arm completely straight, and you're still not pinned. there's a problem.
Mm.
Okay. And that's why guys are blowing their biceps. Like I know friends of mine that have done it. And so on this table, if you're in an open arm top roll, but your shoulder is above the table, that's fine. But as you drop, the second you drop, well, now your tricep hits the tabletop, okay, and then forces your elbow out of my depression. That's an elbow foul. And the reason it's different and it has to be called a foul is because in WAF, the tricep takes over the place of the elbow, right? It's still making contact with the playing surface, right? On my table, when you do that, you no longer have any contact with the playing surface, and your tricep is now on the tabletop.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. The other thing is everyone says, "Oh, your pin pads look low," and they're concerned. They think it's going to be hard to pin guys. It's an illusion. You have to understand. It's actually a half-inch higher, and I did that for a reason I'll explain. The difference is the pads look short because on a WAF table, they sit directly on top of the table and you have 4 inches up in comparison to your elbow pad that sits on the table and it's 2 inches. So you have a difference of 2 inches, okay? My pad is below the tabletop, right? So I had to measure, you know what I mean? So I couldn't keep a 4 inch, you get what I mean? Because then it would be like
Right.
so the arm wrestling like this, it would make no sense, right?
Definitely.
Because of this new epidemic of guys blowing bicep tendons because they're doing these Kings moves, I said, screw it. If you have to keep your arm straight, you're likely you're no longer using your muscles, right? This is you've lost the arm battle, and you will get pinned because normally they're blowing their biceps right before pin, about a half inch, and I'm saying, you know what? You might be mad that you got pinned, but you live to fight another day. Learn how to arm wrestle. Get stronger. Get this part of your bicep stronger. You know what I mean? And the match will go faster too. If there's less fouls, it's the pin height is a little higher. We're gonna have more matches that end in pins. And I got news for you. I think that's what fans would want to see. If you were a non-arm wrestler and you were going to go see an arm wrestling show, and this is what you were told you're going to go watch, I am assuming that those people would think, well, one guy's hand is going to put the other guy's hand down, and that's how it's going to work, right? But unfortunately, in our sport, we have a rule set that says, no, you know what? There's many ways to win an arm wrestling match, and most of them is, and 40% of those matches will end in foul or disqualification, which is banana. No other sport could survive with that kind of a statistic. And you know what I mean? Like imagine MMA said, you know what? We got this great sport, it's violent, there's action, but because of our playing surface and our rule set, about 30% of our matches end in disqualification. Like how fucking long do you think that sport would last? But arm wrestlers and arm wrestling, fuck, we've been force feeding that fucking model for 30 years.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Strange. Yeah. I love everything about it. And so less micro fouls and all elbow fouls in all the typical senses, but then it's going to accentuate the King's move through an elbow foul. Correct?
Basically, the King's move is dead in my league. You can do an open hand top roll or open top roll as long as it's legal, right? But you cannot dip below tabletop height, which technically the rules state that anyway. And that's why I say you can't do an illegal King's move in my league. But first of all, what are we even talking about? We're talking about an illegal move to begin with, right? Because once the humerus goes in the downward position, that's illegal. We just don't call it.
Yeah, I love everything about it. I think it's great. I really, really want to see. I want to see it in a tournament. You know, super matches would be great, but it would be great to see it in a tournament setting because that's where you see all the micro fouls called. That's where there's a lot more pressure through your double eliminations. And that's where the lengthy process happens that, in all honesty, is boring to watch
Can I,
because, you
can I
know,
tell you, on May 25th, if this was any other style tournament, this would probably go on for 2 days. Okay. We start at 11 o'clock. We have 6 prelim super matches. Then we have 19 super matches. And then we have a tournament. And I'm betting that I'm still able to run through that much quicker than, say, an East versus West. Now, I'm not shitting on East versus West. I'm just saying we're different. Okay. Just to put that out there. When you have to understand this. There's not going to be a 5-minute setup. The rules are very clear. You're not allowed to load. Loading causes the problems. Here's why. If you and I are setting up and I'm superior in the load, even if you want to load, I'm not going to let you really know that I'm superior until just before go. And at that point, you're going to say to yourself, oh shit. And your first instinct is to do what? To bail the fuck out of there, right? You're like, oh, I don't like this. So now we've wasted all this time loading and setting up and listening to wrist, shoulder, wrist, back and forth and everything. And the crowd's falling asleep and all the hype is dying. And then we slip. Oh, great. Just to do it all over again. And now put the straps on. You get what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So with the super matches, it's auto straps unless the competitors agree to no straps. And it's no load. Let's just say it's straps, close your thumb, close your hand, go. And if guys load, we have a 3-foul system and a running warning system. And I'll get into that after. But the fouls, if you foul, we are calling fouls. Legitimate sports have rules. I'm trying to eliminate the gay micro foul. You know what I'm saying? The ones that stop amazing arm wrestling matches. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like referees are watching elbows and it's like this match is way too awesome. Stop it. That's the craziest thing to me. It's so counterproductive. But and if in my league they are instructed, if the elbow is bobbing but it's remains below the 3/4 inch depression, do not call it. Do not let that go. Nobody cares. Everybody wants to see the war. Now, why would I be so anal retentive in calling it if it came above an inch? Like people say, well, what's an inch? I think, and this is just my thought, I think an inch and above is dangerous. And what I mean by that, I think it's enough height and leverage that if a guy was smart enough, he could come crashing down on someone's bicep and injure them.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? And so that is why if it comes up, all our matches are stop fouls because it's difficult. Well, you saw the proof of concept match, correct?
Oh,
Yeah.
the one with the table? Yeah.
Yeah. So get this. That went full 5 rounds, and actually it was 6 rounds because both of the competitors said that I called an early pin, which whatever. I think the video says that I called it correctly, but I'm like, whatever, let's do a 6th one, right? We did the 6th one. It was definitive as to who won the 6th one. And when you look at the entire duration of that match with breaks and everything and some restarts and some foul, it only took 11 minutes for 6. That's
Wow.
my because of the rule system, because it's a little bit easier to pin. You can't do the king's move. There's no loading. It's simple. You get the straps on, you get the guys, and I also don't turn their wrist out. So if there's a little bit of a bend, as long as he's happy, I'm happy. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I have a question. So when it comes to like letting on typical tables, letting micro fouls go, the big issue, of course, is what is that line? What is a micro foul? Are you saying that on your table here, that a micro foul would be considered anything over the black, like on this table, for example, anything above that top black surface of the table, if it comes up that high.
So, this, I wish you would have gotten the one that's more to spec now, but yeah, essentially, okay, so that depression is extremely exaggerated because that's at a 45-degree angle. This one here is at a 75-degree angle. All right. So I'm saying if the elbow comes out, if it's visible, like you can see daylight between the tabletop and elbow, I'm saying that is a stop foul.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the table kind of gives you a little more something to go on. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And here's the other thing. Do you know why stop or when referees say on these WAF tables, they say we're not going to call 3/4 inch fouls, and it's actually a shit way of doing it. And like everyone doesn't want them to call it, but the reason they end up calling it, they get referee fatigue. And the other thing is they're guessing. When you're on a WAF table and you say 3/4, what is your mental picture of what 3/4 inch is? It's going to be different than what my mental picture of 3/4 inches is, right? And
Yeah.
eventually, you're going to see fouls, and your WAF training is going to kick in. And after match 4, you're calling anything that comes up. And the problem with it too is you got every single, Tom, Dick, and Harry with a cell phone or who's close to the action. If they see any daylight on a WAF table, they're going to say that ref is corrupt. Even if the referee said, I'm not going to call this. Even if he said that, someone's going to get pissy because their guy lost when a guy had the elbow foul up to here. Well, on my table, it's nobody's opinion. It's a physical measurement. Did it come out or didn't it? If it didn't, you leave it alone. If it did, then you call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to see that table at the North versus South, Josh, right? Because we're typically doing so many super matches, and then even in this one we're incorporating a round robin into it. So efficiency is always a big deal, but then there's the entertainment factor too.
Just
Yeah.
aware, this table doesn't have a brain of its own, right? Like it is an inanimate object. If you want to, I have a rule system based off of my table because my table allows for this rule system. But if you wanted to run a strict WAF-like tournament, you could on this table. You would just have to allow for the fact that there's no corners and the pads are big. You know what I mean? That's the only difference. But if you really wanted to, shoulders square, like in my league, I have for shoulders, I have a clock system. So if the left peg is a 12 o'clock and the right peg is a 6 o'clock, I'm saying this shoulder here can be at the 11 o'clock. We don't need to like contort our body to look like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle back just to have like, to me, no one practices like that. So why are we asking them to pull like that? And in fact, me personally, I just heard from my buddy Evan Burgoyne, and he told me, he's like, Ian, in practice, you're like King Kong. You're so much better at practice than you are at tournaments. And I realize now it's because in practice, I just have my shoulder relaxed and I'm practicing like this. But the second they throw, I lose certain options. Do you get what I mean? My options now go away. And it's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? That's stupid. That is, you know what I mean? And it's a safety rule. Who gives a fuck? We're professional athletes. If I'm going to break my arm, I should have the right to do so.
Right. It makes a lot more sense to have the shoulder dictated off of a certain angle within the table itself. Because yeah, it's just like you said with the micro fouls, figuring out what 3/4 is going to be different to different people. Yeah, there's plenty of times I get straightened out and other people get straightened out, and they're like over contorting you in some weird way that makes no sense.
And that rule stems from when we were trying to get arm wrestling into the Olympics, 90% of these super gay rules are because they needed a strict rule set to basically prove to the IOC or whoever governing body that gets us in that we are doing everything we can to make sure that a bunch of young people are not breaking their arm at the Olympics, because that would be bad for television. You know, that would be very bad, right? So they thought, yeah, make wrists perfectly straight, shoulders perfectly straight. You know what I mean? But it's not. It doesn't, like, no one's comfortable like that. You know, maybe some people would argue, oh, I've been doing it for 30 years and just straight. Well, good for you. You know what I mean? And if you like that, there's 100 leagues out there that promote that. Go play with them. If
Yeah.
you like what you're doing, come have fun. Here's what I'll tell you, you will get to do at my event. You'll get the fucking arm wrestle. How many times have you seen people go to an event, they didn't even say go, and they got 2 fouls, they gotta go sit the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? That is so frustrating. Imagine, I've heard stories where guys have flown all the way to Worlds and that's happened to them. I'm telling you, with the 3 foul system and the way you can set up, you will get to pull. Will you win? That's on you. But you're gonna have a chance to actuate your power. You know what I'm saying? And see
Right.
what you. And that's all I want for people, to have fun. Go out there and have fun. That's what this is. This is sport. We're meant to have fun, not to be over-regulated to death. What is
Mm-hmm.
that? Now,
Yeah.
people say, now, if you look at a set of rules, someone said, they made fun of me, says it looks like a Bible verse because it's super long. But listen, it's super long because I'm addressing everything about the sport, not just what happens on the table, you know, the political sides, this and that, and everything else. But the gameplay rule is pretty simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be in that camp that believed we need to get this sport into the Olympics. I still don't really see anything wrong with it, but I just don't really see that anymore. Not like in a
We
pessimistic
don't,
way. I just don't think that the sport needs to go that direction to thrive, you know.
that's it. If it goes there, fine. But I don't think we need the Olympics to be legitimate. Okay, like
Right.
what you know what makes it legitimate? When we start filling up arenas, when we get tons of,
Yes.
is when the interest level is there. And I'll tell you something. Uh, the less regulation we do, the more interest there'll be. And how can I prove that? Go to any local high school, get
Yeah.
toughest kids that you, or strongest kids you got, put them on a cafeteria table, and they will surround that match like a schoolyard fight.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody like, whoa, and you know what? Their elbows are going all over the place. They don't give a flying, you know, and neither does the crowd. They just want to see who is going down. You know what I mean? And then they can cheer, and then they can boo, and then, you know, there's a great satisfaction to look to seeing a war and having the outcome of that war. You know what I mean? And that's what I believe this table is going to do. I mean, so you saw that match I sent you, right? Those guys, there was a winner, there was a loser, but both of them were happy because they really got the arm wrestle and they took a piece of each other's ass. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they got, like, it went, like I said, it went five rounds. And so you get what I mean? One guy beat and the other guy came back, no fuck you, no fuck you, no fuck you. Like that's arm wrestling.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. You want
And
to feel like you were in a fight.
yeah. And get this, the guy that lost that super match met the other guy in a tournament recently and won that match in a war.
Hmm.
So now I'm going to talk to both of them in Mac 2. I'm going to try to set them up for a rematch because now they got some serious history, right? They basically won.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do want to see that table get into manufacturing, and you're a madcap, dude. You're a trailblazer. I love it. I really do hope that it changes the face of this sport, you know, and a lot of people get on board. I want to try it, obviously, but everything I'm hearing and seeing, it's what we need. So good on you, man.
Can I just rephrase? I change, I don't know, but add to. Like,
Hmm.
there is a place for arm wrestling the way it is. I mean, there is things that WAF arm wrestling will do that mine can't. Like, and case in point, the loading aspect. You get
Hmm.
what I mean? Some people love that part of arm fighting. And, and my league is super easy to get the strap. I mean, like in the tournament, you can elect to go into straps immediately, but in the super matches, it's a default setting, and you must talk to your opponent, and they must agree not to go in straps. Okay, but every match, if they don't, if everybody's cool with it, they're going straight to straps, auto straps as they call it, right? And there is a little bit of hand fighting that's lost when it is auto straps. So there is a beautiful part of WAF style arm wrestling. That is a fact. The problem I have with it in the professional sense is because it takes forever to get to that beautiful game, we lose the interest of people who, let's face it, people's attention spans today are zero. So really, that arm wrestling is for the arm wrestling purists, and I actually hope it doesn't disappear. I hope East versus West becomes I wish nothing but the best for Engen and his program and stuff. And if they can grow that thing to Super Bowl levels, then good for them. I actually believe that both of us can exist. Do you get what I mean? There's mixed martial arts, there's Bodog, there's UFC, there's professional grappling leagues, American submission wrestling. You get what I mean? Like,
Right.
if I call it arm grappling, I will. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
to me, I mean, I see the rule sets and the table as being an evolutionary thing that can always, um, evolve within promotions. When we're looking
Mhm.
at a lot of the beauty of East versus West or King of the Table, I feel like we're looking at, something very different in terms of what makes it so special. With East versus West, we have a very elite super match series, you know,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
King of the Table, you get to see a lot of those crazy matches that you might want to see,
But I
but
think get there too, and here's why. Um, with the popularity of arm wrestling, I'm looking at all these clubs just in my region, and arm wrestling is huge here. And we have some youths, right, that are just growing into it. Like, you got Auden Larrett, you got Dakota, and these kids, they're beating grown men now. And
mhm,
so the level, so we help foster grow these young people, and they're going to be the new Mac gods, if you will, like the Devin Larrett's of today. They're going to grow up in our league, and we're going to have just as competent and competitive matches as anywhere in the world. It's just right now, East versus West is paying the money, and they deserve. They put the ground work down, and they deserve all their flowers. I have to build it. I have to build it. You know what I mean? And be legitimized. And I'm very much willing to do that work. And listen, if it's a fraud, if it's, and I don't mean fraud, if it's not what I say it is, or it's not what I think it is, I'll be first to admit it. I won't push something that's BS, because that's not my goal. I wake up wondering why this sport isn't mainstream, or at least as popular as slap sport or tag or darts. Like, this is an awesome sport. And I wake up with that in my mind, and I say, how? What is not working? What is working? What can we improve on to make it more interesting for the viewing audience? I have a term that I say, hey, what can we do to put asses in seats and eyes on TVs?
mhm.
What can we do to do?
The thing that those other sports that you just mentioned, in my opinion, the thing they have in common is the viewer friendly aspect. These other events that we're talking about, the elite super matches and what we have going on, it's an amazing thing. But I feel like those are events that are just geared for the arm wrestler. Like they're putting on shows, and it's like, what do we want to see? Oh, this is badass, and the viewer is not going to see it the way we see it. However, what you're talking about and the things that you're talking about making happen sound much more viewer friendly and more streamlined. That's I feel like the biggest thing that's held this sport to where it's at is that it's been to the focus on keeping it just nice arm wrestling events, which is awesome, but we haven't found that nice medium where we can make it viewer friendly and streamlined, taking out the micro fouls. Nobody wants to see a match finish on fouls.
I'm going to run to the washroom. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Take your calls.
No problem. Yeah, man.
What do we got in the comments?
We've got Paul Stevens in the house saying, what's up, Paul? We got Casey Stevens, the Grizzly, is in the house. He says, very cool table, wants to know what the final Mac design looks like. Now, when I switched it over to the match on his table, was he saying that was the most recent? I think he was.
Yes, that is the new design. That is what they're using currently.
Yeah, I'll pull that up.
And so, yeah, we can watch that on here and then show everybody.
Okay. Yeah, good idea. Oh, we're looking at the wrong thing. Hold on. There we go. There we go. All right. So I think, yeah, they're still being set up here. And did I set it up for sound? Where is my sound? Oh, there we are.
When I first seen that match, I thought that was Jacob Abbott.
All right. And is it coming through choppy
from the side profile?
Is it coming through choppy for you on your end? I know that happens sometimes for people.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay, so was that an example right there? The King's move resulting in an elbow foul?
It looked like it. It looked like he maybe pinned him first.
Yeah, and he actually slipped out the back of that depression. And I love that playing field. The 10 inches, I'm guessing, is from forward to reverse. I believe he said 8 by 10.
Wow, that's a big elbow pad.
Yeah, I love it. I love that.
I mean, WAL was 9 by 7.
Right.
So that's an inch more on both ways. So yeah, it's probably I wonder if it's the width that's the 10 and 8 long.
Yeah, 10 long, right, Ian?
It's like from pin pad to pin pad is 10 and it's 8 back.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought. It looks like it's wider than it is long. That's awesome.
It looks so fun. I mean, so much more options on the table. And I got to ask the no load thing. Does that mean every setup is going to be like a ref's grip or a set grip?
It's basically the WAL version. It's just not as anal retentive. And what I mean by that is, like, we're not going to fight to have perfectly straight wrists. Okay. Now you can't cover the opponent's thumb knuckle. Like, we're still doing that. And if need be, if guys are really having a problem, we'll do a rest grip in the same style but it will be like no movement at all. And then referees will physically close the thumbs at the same time. Then he'll physically close the hands at the same time and then say go. But you should like it. I mean, unless you're being an idiot, you should be able to not cover. Like, when you cover a guy's thumb knuckle, you should know that you're doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everybody's watching where they're placing their hands. And yeah, I get that people want to have advantage and stuff like that, but understand what we're trying to do. It's not about the individual athlete. Like, those athletes have to understand You you want a league where it eventually turns into a career that can pay you money, and you don't have to go to a nine. Then you have to be a partner in your own success. You get what I mean? And if you're just me centric and you're ruining the product that I'm trying to get for everybody, then it's gonna hinder that. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if I worded that correctly, but like, we're all trying to get this to the next level. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Right.
to the next level means that not just the promotion gets paid, but the athletes. That's why, like, for example, all my pay-per-view pullers have their own promo code. And basically, when they go out and they sell their pay-per-view, that is why each of these guys gets 50% of the profits of every sale that they make. And that's why I don't say I'm the boss. I'm not your boss. You're my partner. And that's why I don't take a cent more than you get.
Mm.
You know, you basically become a promoter yourself for Mac because you are part of Mac. And if you made it, then we benefit together. Now, of my half of the profits, I have to go out and pay the bills with that, right? However, you're one promoter, like if you're one athlete, and I have all the athletes as promoters. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
yeah, I pay the bills, but I got a lot more revenue coming in into me. But imagine you're a social media guy like Devin or Schoolboy or someone like. Imagine we had someone like that, and he gets 20,000 sales just on himself. A 50% split on profits would sound pretty good at that point, right?
Hell, heck yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I like that recipe. And
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
good Lord, these guys are using the whole playing field, all 8 by 10 of it.
That's what I was gonna say. It looks like I mean, maybe it's just the optical illusion of it, but doesn't it look like the table? They're closer, right? Like it
No,
looks like they're more in there, like
no,
again, like old school style, like power hook.
yeah, it's not. No, you know what it is? They both are crouching because of their styles. They both like
Okay.
to be, you know what I mean?
Like they'd
But
have the ability
Yeah.
because there's a big playing field to get up tighter if they wanted, but
the distance between pads is very close to WAF. In fact, the reason the big change from my first table to this table was I talked to Bob Brown and it's like, Ian, those pads are way too close. If you know that initial picture you sent up, he's like, those pads are way too close to each other. You're just gonna have a hook press leak. And so it's like,
right.
shit. I'm like, you're right. So we retracted the pads further back. And if you watch the last match of this, like the last round of this match,
Mm-hmm.
you Constantini shows what's possible on the utilization of a big pad. Like I don't know if you remember, but he was in the straps and he hit this way, hit that way. It didn't go. He went this way. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it looked awesome.
Right.
Like,
Well,
really
with all
avoiding.
these rounds, I'm kind of noticing that is that if they were on traditional pads, the setup that these rounds would be a lot shorter. That they're able to make certain adjustments, and the rounds are actually more arm wrestling.
Well, you want to know what the real truth is? We'd still be in round one because I'd be still trying to get them square perfectly and their wrists perfect, and I'd be saying shoulder to shoulder, wrist, center is here, center,
But
shit
we're
that
arm
no,
wrestling instead.
yeah. Now we're arm wrestling, and that's why these 6 rounds that went through, well, technically 5, but um, they like you see this. Look, I call so I think they said I called can't remember which round this is. Do you know what round this is?
This
This should be around
should be 5.
4 or 5. Yeah.
So I one of these rounds they said that I felt like that was a pin, but I think they both agreed that it wasn't. So we did it again. But the very last round, Jason had to work his ass off to beat Nathan.
Mm.
And he goes outside, he goes inside, and he really utilizes the big playing surface. And that's kind of what I hope all of you out there watching will see. It's like it's more fun. It's more fun to be able to move around and you know what I'm saying? And experiment with the different varieties of techniques and stuff. So now, see, he's fully outside here, right? And see his adjustments. So he's like, he's not going, it's not going. Okay, so now you see how you see how he slid his elbow and then changed direction?
Kept coming back. Yeah. Yeah.
That is not happening on a 7x7, my friend, because when he came across, he would have already reached his limit of exploitation, essentially, right? But the fact that he could come across 10 inches as opposed to 7, you know, he was able to bury the guy.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it. This is great. And anybody that wants to go check out that match, that's on the channel Major Arm Wrestling Championships. Major Arm Wrestling Championships. That's Jason Constantini versus Nathan Leland. Stop the share here. And I think
So that's what MAC stands for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arm wrestling.
We've got a couple more people in the chat. We got Eric Gonzalez in the house saying, man, I would love to arm wrestle on Ian's table. You and me both, man. Alwyn Kaburi is in the chat. What's up, Alwyn? He says Ian looks like my dad. So your dad must look like a tough dude. He says arm wrestling needs more characters like Devin with colorful personalities that stands out. So referring to kind of a lot of what we were talking about earlier. You know, what helps the sport. He says even Whisperers Facade brought out a lot of viewers. Although I think someone can do way better. No, yeah, he's very responsible for bringing in a lot of newbies and young folks.
Personality, characters. That's why things like the WWE were so successful for so long. People love the story of people, right? Like, you know, they want to admire people, but not just because they're good at athletics, okay? You know, like we want characters, but I think we should look for these people organically. I mean, you want to do a WWE thing and have a following, that's fine. Go do it. But I want to see the guy, the rags to riches story. Like I'll tell you,
Yeah.
you know,
The adversity.
yeah, I'll tell you who I like. I love his story. I love Marcio Barbosa. Comes from country, comes to United States, and he was in a really tough era, and he gave wars to Ron Bath, Devin Larratt, John Brzenk. He's an immigrant. He works hard in a labor. He's a father, and he's awesome. You know, and I just love his story. I'm a huge fan of Marcio. And that's the kind of thing I hope that we can discover our new Marcios. You get what I mean? I'm gonna be totally honest. I want to market this to black kids, and I'll tell you why. If black kids think that arm wrestling's cool and they like my swag and everything, and they start wearing that, well, guess what? The white kids are gonna see that and they're gonna copy it, and then there's your market. Now the whole thing's exploded. And it's like, we just need. And it's not like they're not capable. Some of the best world champions in arm wrestling have been black. So it's like we just need them to think it's cool, and they're more. There's more of them, you know. Like, and I mean that guy. There's Jerome. There's Jody Williams. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's Cobra and Gary back in the day, but I'm talking about the new breed, and I'm seeing more and more of them in. And eventually I think it'll get caught on. And then it'll be a real sport. And here's why. If you look at the top 4 team sports in North America right now, I think the most entertaining one is actually hockey. If you really go to an NHL hockey game, especially playoffs, it's hard to argue that they're not the most entertaining. But they're the 4th leading of the 4 major sports. And why is that? I think it's the lack of black athletes. I honestly do. I think when you have a sport where the majority or at least 50% of the athletes are black, it legitimizes your sport because they tend to be the better athletes. You get what I mean? So,
Right, right.
and I think right now, if we only have white participation in arm wrestling, we're looked less like a sport and more like strongman. You know what I mean? And not that strongman's not a sport, but you get what I mean. We pick things up, we put them down. Like that's the way people look at arm wrestling if it's not a sport. But if we had a bunch of super fast Corey Miller types and athletic dudes, you know what I mean, and black guys, or I think it would just generate more buzz in all demographics and lend legitimacy to the game. And it's not just like, I don't want to go into this because there's no representation of me. I'm speaking from a like someone of color, you know what I mean? Like thinking I'm probably not going to go into that because I don't see anybody that looks like me. So I'm not sure it'd be really uh, open armed to me. But we know there's no better sport in the world that's more inclusive than us. We love everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Doesn't matter your religion. Do you want to arm wrestle? Yeah, come on over. You're green. You're from Mars. No problem. Come on over. Nobody cares. You want to arm. This is how we do. Oh, I beat you. This is why. Because you're a little. You need a little bit work on your up pressure. You need. These are the exercises you can do to get straight. Like how many sports does the guy that beat you come over and tell you what he did? I love this community, and I really want to see us on the stage that's appropriate for such a great sport.
Yeah, it is very special. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and then all those other sports, yeah, basketball, football, the black community definitely,
They
changed it
embrace,
forever.
yeah, to tell you. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you could argue in the '90s when Iverson got in, he really put a lot of swag into the league, and then it really, I mean, Jordan obviously did it with the baggy pants and the gold chains and his hip hop style. You get what I mean? But like, and I'm not saying that's the route that we have to go, but we have to go. We have to do something to make it seem cool to the younger generations. And unfortunately, arm wrestling is top heavy in the long in the tooth section. You know what I mean? Like, but we really we do have a lot of up and comers. We just have to put them in the forefront now. We have to say, okay, it's nice that you're young. It's not, but like what they're doing with Odd and what I'm doing with Dakota and Milo. Milo's going to be Milo Larrett's going to be pulling in my tournament, and Dakota's going to be pulling in the pro super match. And these are young guys, good looking, physically strong, physically capable, and I hope that they take us to where we need to be. It might not be you and me that gets the big contracts, my friend, but it might be our kids.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
And that's all right for sure.
My
So,
parents, my mom and my uncles were that for pro wrestling, believe it or not. Like, if you ever get into do some research on my family, like
Yeah,
they
Luna Deshawn, right?
is my cousin, yeah.
Yeah. I do research on everybody, unfortunately. So yeah,
Awesome.
I started looking at that. It's
Mother's the
pretty
original.
neat.
My mother's the original wrestling queen, and my uncle Mad Dog and Paul were early WWE guys, and but they built like the Grand Prix and AWA, and my uncle Paul's the guy that brought the Giant over from France. So, they were trendsetters, building blocks, and now, they didn't make millions. Mad Dog might have made a million, but my mom certainly didn't make a million. But you know what? She paved the path so her niece could, you know and yeah, and that's kind of how I see myself. I might not ever become rich from arm wrestling, but hey, I got three boys, that like arm
Yeah.
wrestling. Two of them do, but
I think what you said, like, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, just talking about the different ethnic groups, right? Some people might be like, "Oh, this is controversial," but I think there's so much truth to that. I think there's so much truth to um, getting the young black kids involved in arm wrestling and stuff, and that it
It's
would change things because of how much, at least since I've been alive for 40 years, because of how much that culture is embraced in our country, regardless of the media hoopla. Like, we know the truth that that culture is embraced. Like, every kid wants to listen to hip hop and every, all these things, and it's a popular thing. So yeah, like I didn't even think about that. And then when you said the hockey thing, I was like, wow, I mean, that makes a ton of sense, because I have a lot of people that think arm wrestling, we're just a bunch of hillbilly rednecks.
that's it.
You know?
That's the stigma that we need to get rid of. And the more of their community, and I'm gonna say, not I'm gonna say, like, Native American, Native Canadian, Native anybody, like people of color, like minorities, if they start thinking it's cool, because they're all cool in their own right. I mean, Puerto Ricans think they're cool. You get what I'm saying? We all kind of think we're cool, but at the end of the day, if we have everyone participating, then we're a true sport. Something that can appeal to every demographic, and that's what we need. We need,
Right.
and I think it's so funny because you said redneck. Um, you might be a black kid or a Mexican kid or any kind of ethnic, and you might wander in the South, and you might be looking over your shoulder, and you might be worried about someone coming to get you. And you know what? I would say to find yourself a redneck arm wrestler, and he'll take care of you. Huh? You know what I mean? Like, seriously, if you found a guy arm wrestling, he runs over there, they're good. Yeah, it's like home base, because
Yeah.
that guy will take care of you because you're interested in his sport, and you'll be like, come on over and let me show you. And then, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
believe that. I think we are, like, for the most part, I think the types of people, for the most part, that arm wrestle are good people. I think you have to be good somewhat. There has to be, like, a character thing inside of you to compete in arm wrestling, because the shitheads, they don't last, right? Because they get
No.
bucked real quick, and their egos, like, stomped on a bit, and then they fuck off and we never see them again, right? The guys that are willing to suffer all the embarrassments, and and grow the correct way, they literally build character. You know what I mean? And we're building men and women. I think that's the way I see it. Sports do that. It's particularly true in arm wrestling because it's so personal. Like, even in a fight, if you and me were going to do on thing, we got about a minute to feel each other out before, you know what I mean? There's a little dance going on. Everybody's, but when arm wrestling, man, you're fucking immediately touching your opponent. You have no time. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Besides, what other sport? I always say this, but like you were talking about basketball, how good would you have to be at basketball? How small of a percentage would you have to be able to be in a room with the likes of Michael Jordan, these type of athletes? But in our sport, the highest level pros will hang out with the brand new guys and treat them just like their best friends. So I think we're very unique in that, is that so many people have world champions like right at their disposal that are willing to work with you and teach you or just be a friend, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people, I feel like, if they spent one day with us, like, they would fall in love. You know what I mean?
No
The
matter the
community is
culture.
like the biggest draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there are some of us that I won't call anybody out, but we are starting to see some of our prima donnas, guys that think their shit don't stink, but that's fine. You know what I mean? Uh, at the end of the day, I agree with you in a whole. Our top level guys are humble, and they're willing to work. It's so funny. I was talking to RVJ, and I said to him, I said, listen, not if this were to blow up and we say we got, invested with the Robert Kraft group, because anyway, I won't get too much into that, but something like that, okay? And I said, if ever, Mac blew up and I was making millions and stuff, I said, I would want you to check me if ever I started changing personality, because I have to remember that it's who I am right now is what got me to where I'm going. And if I change, then it's probably the beginning of the end. Do you get what I'm saying? If I change who I am, if I change, like now I get to act like a dick because I'm successful, well, that might be the beginning of the end and the fall of Mac. So I got a fear
Yeah.
that my spouse doesn't give a shit if I'm a millionaire. She doesn't care whatsoever. So she's gonna keep me grounded. And I got friends, real friends that'll keep me grounded. And I mean, it's stupid to talk about it right now because I ain't fucking got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. But you know, I've heard some stories, right? Like as guys go, like all of a sudden there's some change in the way they do business and the way they talk to people and the way they how you approach them, and I will never turn down photos, autographs. It was really funny to, when go over to East versus West and do that for people and knuckles up. I was more humbled than anything. You know what I mean? Like I literally did this. Oh, me? Like I had to look around to see if there's. I'm like, you went. Okay, yeah, no problem. Come on over. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I was pretty happy about it, but it's a humbling experience for me.
Right. Yeah, there's a very special recipe about our community. And yeah, the few that uh might be evolving too quickly or getting, quite a bit of attention or whatever. The community is so involved that I feel like it kind of organically weeds a lot of that crap out, holds
Yeah,
everybody accountable. I think the biggest difference between, when we mentioned those other sports where you don't get to practice, train, or learn or meet your Michael Jordan and your, many pros is, that the pro level, if you are anybody in those pro levels, you're making good money. You're getting a really good salary. If you're pro baseball, pro football, if you're an MMA fighter, one of the elites of that, because of sponsors, ticket sales, coverage, all of those things. I just kind of wonder, like, if we did have all those things, I'm not so sure that our really solid recipe would change much.
well, here's why it might, and there's something that we're not taking into consideration is the behavior of the general population when they are around people who are famous and a lot of money, right? We've never been rich enough or famous enough where we have people trying to be hangers on or benefit from us somehow. I would imagine if I had a lot of money, that I would question just as to why I have so many new friends. Why are they actually around? You know what I'm saying? So I imagine that that could enter people's heads and maybe change personality. So I suppose I'd have to evaluate each situation as like case by case.
Right.
But I would imagine that one who gets into some sort of financial like security probably does wonder why he's got all these new friends. You get what I mean? And
Right. Right.
and maybe our community wouldn't be different, but that doesn't mean you can be weary and you can be you don't have to give money away or whatever or without being a fucking prick. Like you can do that and not be a prima donna. You know what I mean? There is a difference. And you can learn to say the word no. But you don't have to be like, what are you piece of shit? Like, yeah, I hate guys like that. I just can't. I don't know. Anyone that thinks they're better because they happen to be gifted to play a sport better than the average and thinks they're better people because of it, it's fucked in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'd rather see my kid go to get a, scholarship off of hard work off of their education and everything. But that's the funny thing about our sport is it's not really based on money. It builds egos and stuff like that. Because there's only maybe like 1 to 3 people on the planet that are making that money off of
But
like that money
a lot,
money.
a
But
lot, a lot
but
higher. It's a lot higher than you think. There are many people now that don't do anything but arm wrestle. That's what takes care of their livelihoods. It's a lot more than you think.
now are you referring to on the European side or North America?
Oh, you okay, babe? Oh, she has something on the stove and it popped. Are you sure? Okay. Um, yeah, obviously there's a lot of Europeans that don't have to go to work and they their earnings or their winnings are their earnings. But I would even say, and I mean everything social media related. I don't mean just their winnings, but like social media, because they're arm wrestlers, has allowed them to earn a living. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you something right now, like a kid like Auden. I mean, in the next couple of years, he might not even need a cent from dad. You know what I mean? Like he might be set because he's a good looking kid. He's smart. He's very well spoken. He's goal orientated. He trains like crazy, and he's big. He's about 2 inches taller than me, and he's got a frame on him. Like he's only 19. You know what I mean? So wait till he becomes a man. He's gonna be. You get what I mean? And with his work, and I say, regardless of who his dad is, he's earning his opportunity. He's been gifted an opportunity because of his dad. But he's earning it. But I'll tell you this, I think my kid, like if my kids want to go on any promotion, I'm pretty sure I could arrange something based on who I am too. But guess what? They're not in the gym 24/7 like Auden. You know what I mean? Auden is literally earning. Like my oldest has a ton of natural ability. He was in Toronto a couple months ago and he came second in the men's open division in the super heavyweights, and he's 22. Doesn't train really, just been around it his whole life, right? So comes second nature to him. But gave a pretty good match to Justin Major, who's a top 5, top 7 super heavyweight in the country. So but Auden is a professional arm wrestler and needs to be celebrated as such. And his brother, Milo, is starting to understand that this could be his future as well. And that kid is standing anywhere from 6'5" to 6'6" and as fit as a whistle. I mean, like he is like there's some serious potential with Milo as well. And I think they're all willing to work and earn their spots. That's very different than just being gifted it. Does that make sense, guys? Lots of people get gifted
Yeah.
shit, especially when it comes to money. You get gifted money and then they're broke and they end up being bumps. I don't see that for these kids. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Lots of good stuff, man.
Yeah,
I
and
know
there's
that. Go ahead.
well, I'm about to shift, so you go ahead first.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say. I know that you have a little bit of time. We don't want to take your whole day, but if we could kind of go back and go over the knuckles up and what you thought was so exciting about that, and what stood out to you as far as potential and stuff from that event.
Well, okay. So I thought, you know, they really were going out of their way to put on a professional event. You know what I mean? The venue was great. They had VIP gold, VIP silver, than general population. They had great entrance music and fireworks, if you will, whatever the sparkly things were cool. I mean, the uniforms were tight. The matchups were good. I just feel like they're really trying to be professional, and I like that. I mean, it's not to knock any of the other promotions. They're all trying to do their own visions, and that's fine. It's like, but what they're trying to do and be legitimate is great. And I don't know who does their matchmaking, but they did a very good job. Like that is probably the hardest thing to do as promoters, you know, especially like there's lots of promoters, there's people with lots of money and they can dump a ton of money into an event and it can be a complete flop. If you don't have a guy that has a keen eye for talent and matching, you don't have anything. You get what I mean? That is super important. And yeah, I wish Knuckles Up all the best. I hope to be part of their organization as a competitor. I hope I can help them with some of my vision and they can maybe incorporate it. And I would be tickled pink if they decided to switch to Mac tables. I would be like over the moon happy with that because I believe in it. At a certain point, I'll have to call it something other than Mac tables. The only reason I'm calling it Mac tables is because the only league currently using it is Mac.
Hmm.
We'll call it something. I'll figure it that way. You know, I don't know. Most leagues out there use WAF tables, and they just call it WAF tables, right? They're not WAF, but they call it WAF tables. So maybe Mac tables is fine. What do you think? Should it stay Mac tables?
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Mac. It reminds me of Mac Tools. I mean, it sounds like it's heavy duty.
I went Mac truck.
Tables.
I went Mac truck,
Yeah.
but yeah. Mac
Yeah. Same thing. How about the game tonight? Who's going to win? Is it the Mavs, OKC?
Well, I'm torn because I'm a real big Luca fan, but I'm also Canadian, right? So Shay's Canadian, and but you know, I've been cheering for Luca in Dallas ever since Dirk was there, right? Because you know, obviously my default team is the Raptors, but they were shit this year, so I always have a second team, right? So that's Dallas for me.
Hmm.
And I don't know who's going to win. They're in OKC. That crowd, that young team, if they get on their bikes, man, it's going to be tough to keep up because Luca's got a blown tire right now. And I think what they should probably do is use Luca as more of a decoy and have Kyrie do some of the heavy lifting and have to facilitate more than them trying to take over the game. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, heck yeah. Dane, do you have anything else that you want to touch on? I know that it's right around 6:30. I think that game is. Yep, it started 1 minute ago.
Yeah, let's wrap this Mama Jamma up. But I just got to say, Ian, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I really am intrigued by the table. And I would love to support in any way I can. Anything that Josh and I are doing down the road, you know, we will be an open channel of communication any way that we can help. I would love to see that table out here on the West Coast. And
Yeah,
incorporate
you just let us know when one is available, and we will definitely promote that thing for you. And like Kane was saying, we do the North versus South is coming up in July 20th. We have like 40 super matches, and then the round robin as well. So I would also be interested in learning your rule set. So maybe as this thing continues to progress, we can kind of have you check in and stop in the show once in a while and give us updates and stuff so we can continue to feed it to the followers.
Bro, I'll come on anytime. You know, this is my job now is promoting arm wrestling, and your guys' platform is how I can do that. And anyone else's platform, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm not whoring myself. I'm just saying, you know, we're all about arm wrestling and we're trying to grow the sport. And if you see an opportunity like this, like I honestly I didn't know you guys from a hole in the ground, and we're arm wrestlers. That's all I needed to know. You got me on the show. It's the first time I've seen your faces. And we had a great show because why? We belong to a very good community. And I knew that if you
That's
guys
right.
were on the show, that this would go well, right? And that's it. So whenever I'm able to get a CAD together, I'm really going to just send CADs out. I think it's much easier to give you the plans for them, you know what I mean? And have your guys, Dave Morocco's actually trying to call me right now, but he can wait. Um, you know, and build your own tables, and for us to build, try to you, the shipping alone probably costs more on the table, but
Mm.
they're heavy like elephants, right? Uh, you know, but I got this guy, Rich Kastner. He's trying to make a collapsible version of the table, and he has, and that's good because they'll be far less expensive and easier to ship, and guys can at least practice on it. But I wouldn't recommend using them for a tournament. Like the reason they're built the way they are is so that they don't fall apart in a major event. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
Now, are the joints like when you say that, are the joints literally welded together, or I mean, can you actually bolt and nut them together?
no, listen, let me tell you, this is a downside, but it's done purposefully. Okay, like you have a platform that slide, so the table can sit on its own without a platform because the four legs. That's what I never really got into it, but my legs are not vertical under the tabletop. They're actually A-framed. Okay,
Hmm.
very very slightly, and
Mm.
it's actually ergonomic to wrap your leg around because you know what I mean of the angle, right? But when it sits on the ground, it sits on these very thin slats, rectangle pieces of steel, right? So it can, but then you slide the platform through, you slide it down. There's holes for the notches where the legs are. I stand on this side, you stand on that side. That table's not moving anywhere. You get what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not, and so you need an SUV, you need a truck to have this kind of a table. It's a two-man lift because, like I said, it's built with a heavy gauge steel. There's four pieces of plywood that make the tabletop to make that depression. Um, Everything is high quality. Like we use marine vinyl for the vinyl, obviously, and then we use high density foam. So foam that like it doesn't wear. Like I don't know if you bought any of these new tables online. Sometimes you're arm wrestling for a month and now you got an permanent elbow groove in the foam. What the fuck is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, these things, like they are like the day they were made. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're still perfectly, and that's a testament to John McAlpine, who he's an amateur, homebody carpenter, but he's obviously skilled at what he does, and he takes a lot of pride. And then there's Rich Kastner, who took the table design from John, and he makes them in the States. And so we're trying to get a few people. I just need somebody that's willing to make a CAD, and if the CAD gets written down, then I can just pump it to all you people,
Mm.
and you guys could get your table builders and make it as long as the dimensions are correct. I don't really care how you do it. It's just don't have it like Mac like because then it'll fuck you up when you actually get to a Mac event, right? So make it to spec, learn the table, run your events with them, and then when a Mac event comes near you, you'll be fucking primed and ready to go. That
Heck
makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Honestly, I really hope Mac can make it out that way. You know, we haven't like. There's going to be some growing pains, guys. I mean, like East versus West had 12 shows, and every show they do a rules review, and they've had several changes in rules. I allow me the same uh, ability, right? So I'm going to
Cool.
have,
Yeah, it's only going to get better.
yeah. I'm gonna have this first show. We're gonna do an after action report. We're gonna ask lessons learned. We're gonna ask the public what they thought, and be critical. As long as it's constructive, be critical, because that's the only way we're gonna get better. And what worked, what didn't work, and then hopefully we'll tighten it up for the next one, and we just keep building.
Heck yeah. Yeah. The community's blessed to have you, man. Like seriously.
Thanks,
We
man.
need more people that are, willing to get out of the comfort zone and try to make progress. And so yeah, awesome to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Same as you guys, and have me on anytime.
For
How
sure.
about
Sure.
we? How about a week after the event, or 3-4 days, whatever you guys want.
That'd
We
be
can have,
perfect. We could
can talk.
recap it.
Yeah, but you know what? You better buy the paper, because you better know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Affordable paper.
I buy all the arm wrestling pay-per-views, man. Like anyone to support, like I feel like it's the least that I can do, right? I mean, if you can go buy a burger, you can support somebody that's putting on something for arm wrestling. That way we still have what we love. So yeah, I'll definitely be buying the pay-per-view.
Not only that, I do the same as you. I also subscribe to Arm Wars and Arm Gods, even though they're like water and oil, or whatever they call that. Like I pay a monthly subscription to them. You know what I mean? So I believe Neil Pickup used this term, and I agree with it so much. It's like, high tides rise all ships, right? The more arm wrestling is going on, the more we're talking about arm wrestling. This is a beautiful thing. And I just want to create a different version of it and say, what do you think? Do you like it? It's going to be for some people, it's not going to be for some people. But guess what? It's great that we have the option now.
Yeah, well said, man. And I don't want to keep you, but somebody just hopped on and wants to say hi.
Okay.
We got to hear you though. We got to
I
hear
hear you, Gary. You got to unmute yourself.
Is that Gary Roberts? Is that what you said? Is that Gary?
No.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Oh,
Yo!
Garrett!
What's up, babe?
Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
Not too much, man.
Look
What
at
do you
all
think?
that back promotion. I've seen you everywhere, buddy.
Thank you. What do you think of this nonsense that I'm trying? What do you think?
Nonsense. What do you mean? No, it's good, dude. It's just like you just said. Rising tides raise all ships. It really is. I mean, and competition breeds makes everybody level up their game in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and hopefully everybody makes it and our sport blows up. But just regardless, just more competition, everybody's gonna keep raising their level. They're gonna have to. And so like, in terms of us, even at a more local level, like when people like to bitch about, oh, this tournament is doing this much, like, but if they're not being pushed to raise their game, then we're going to see a bunch of the same stuff over and over again. I know everybody likes to focus on the big leagues, like, whatever, East versus West, all that stuff. But like, even talking on a smaller level, like, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel stuff, but when you see copy paste tournaments with the same boring announcers and the same thing and not paying any money and all this stuff, like that bar needs to be raised, I feel. And if they're not being pressed to raise that bar, right? And so when you start having, I got this tournament in 2 months where they have sponsorships, they're paying out money, you know what I'm saying? They're taking care of their athletes a little better. Or you have this guy in 1 month who's not doing any of that. I'm going to go with the guy that's putting more work in, like are actually trying to find sponsors, still putting in the footwork and excited about promoting. I just get tired of the run-of-the-mill old school tournaments that don't really care anymore.
Yeah. What do you think about my idea of sharing, as using my athletes that are on the professional cards as individual promoters, and that we share 50% the profit. So 50% of the profit of each of their sales goes to them, and to the house. What do you think of that?
I think that's really good. I think it'll cater a little more to guys that have a social media presence, that have a voice out there, than to guys that don't. Because I mean, suddenly you give Joe Schmo, that opportunity. He's great arm wrestler, but has never dabbled in social media. Suddenly you're like, all right, you can make a lot of money if you promote. And he's like, I have 3 followers. Hey, everybody, please watch me. And he's can't get any traction on it, right?
But
compared to someone like me or
that's
someone.
true as initially, but what if he goes and he kills it, and then he becomes a somebody, and then he builds it that way, right? It's like the cart before the horse kind of thing, you know. Like Devin actually had to be a somebody before he could get a YouTube following.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Thing is,
so
you
he
got some
builds
guys
his
that are so
brand.
boring though. Some guys are so boring that they're just you put a microphone in front of them, it's just never gonna work. You know what I mean? Like they're great people, great arm wrestlers, but they might get some followers just because they can perform well, but they'll just never have a big following just because they're just watching paint dry.
Well,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
not saying that this is the only way they'll gain revenue. Okay. I'm just saying it is an option. And part of it is to try to entice some of these, like yourself, a guy who's in social media to
Mhm.
want to come because they might think, I got 50,000 followers. If, you know, a percentage of those, you know, buys my, you know, I've just made myself a nice coin,
Oh,
you know.
I would love it. I would love it. I'm just thinking about for the other guys. I know personally. Yeah, that sounds
I,
great.
I understand that, but we get 3, 4 guys like you,
Mm.
then there's all this buzz, and then those other guys, you know, you know what they say about like talent and breeds talent. Like if you hang around talented people, you learn and you walk the way they walk and they talk. So those guys that are not as social media, and they're gonna learn from a guy like you or Dev, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Gives them an
And
incentive. Yeah. To do.
yeah, exactly. Incentive is probably the best word to use because, and they'll be able to sit down and talk to Derek and say, like, Derek, how did you? And Derek will say, well, when I started, it was fucking slow going. You know, I had 5 followers and I didn't even know if I wanted to do this. And now, and you know, am I right, Derek? Is that kind of how it was? It was
Yeah.
probably slow drugging, and now, you know, you built yourself up. You earned it. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. It'll give people I think what's important is that they're given the opportunity to take it as far as they want to take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you still going to be like, would you still be paying them like a flat rate for the match? And then they could take that as far as they want to take it, but they're still guaranteed
Yeah.
X,
Yeah.
Y.
So obviously, this is my first show.
Mhm.
And the sponsorships that I got were mostly for like being able to put the show on, you know. So I I think, and I'll be completely honest, uh, all my athletes, all these professionals are doing me a huge favor, and that's why I'm saying staying humble, because I know that very few people could ask 40 professional athletes to come on their own dime. I have people flying in from Alberta, Nevada, and they're doing it on their own dime because they believe in what I'm doing and my concept. And trust and believe, the guys that were in Mac 1 that have done this for me, they're Mac forever. And whenever they need help from me, or if we blow up, they're coming with me,
Right.
because it would never have happened without them. And a lot of people are telling me it's suicide for me to admit that um, that basically I'm getting a handout from these athletes, but I am so fucking humbled by them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I can't even begin to tell you how amazing, and I'm gonna work my fucking ass off for them to make them, to promote and make do you understand what I'm saying? Because these guys they're going out of pocket for my dream because they believe in me.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you, man. Like honestly, I I'm floored. Words, and hopefully when, if this goes off the way I think it is, sponsors will look at this, and I'll do some presentations. I'm going to go to every kind of investment group you can imagine and say, look, we really have something here. We have a great sport. It's fan friendly for the first time ever. Do you know what I mean? And and hopefully the rest of you will look at it and say, you know what, Ian's, because I'm not just a promoter, my friend. I'm one of you. You
Yeah.
understand? I've been in the trenches with you. I am an arm wrestler first, and I've always believed that we could make this sport a better sport and more mainstream. And I've wrestled and I've fought and I've argued with many promotions and top brains, or what we call the experts, and no one No one wanted to see my direction, and that's fine. So I said, fine, you know what? Before I leave this sport, I'm going to try to make an imprint. And if I can be known for nothing else but put the direction of arm wrestling in the right direction, then I'll feel like I've had a successful career.
Well, Ian, like, I mean, credit to all those guys for doing it. That's a huge, like, it's a huge show of faith. But you also got to remember, man, like, the reason that this is working and the reason that this is possible, these guys are taking that leap of faith, is because of who you are. Is because of your reputation, is because of the relationships you've built, that you fostered, that you not being a piece of crap, you being someone people could trust, you being a good dude in general. That's why they're investing in you. So it's awesome that they're doing that. And that's super kind on their behalf. But that's also because you've been such a good dude and you've laid that foundation where people hear Ian Carnegie and they're like, oh, great dude. Like, he says he's doing something, I trust him. He's not gonna screw me over. Like, everybody believes in Ian. Right. So it goes back and forth. You've done the work and you've created this guy that people can trust. So it's not all them. That's great that they're doing that, but it's because of you've laid that foundation. Like, there's a lot of people when they'd hit me up, ask me to do something like that, I'd be like, no. Right. But if Ian Carnegie would ask, I would hear him out for sure. I mean, that's a testament to you and to all the people that have helped you in the past and got you to where you were as a competitor and as a person, right? Like to listen to.
Well, Derek, I mean, thank you. That was very nice of you to say that. I want these people to know, though, that you know, we're a new promotion. The likelihood of them selling 1,000 tickets is not likely for each person. You know what I mean? If we're projected to sell 1,000 for the whole thing. That's what we think is likely going to happen. But it's the model. It's what I want to be right so bad, but that's why we have to test it out. We just have to see. And you're right. Like, I kind of, you pointed out a very good point, which is there are going to be guys who are just athletes and don't care about this social media side. And I will have to find proper ways to compensate those athletes if I hope to continue in the professional side of arm wrestling. So basically, I'm going to take the results of this event, and we're going to social media the fuck out of it, especially if it was a success, and we're going to reach out so we can get some serious coin eventually. It might not be Mac 2, maybe Mac 4, who knows when it happens, but I believe it'll happen. And then we can start funneling some real money to guys like yourself, and and I'm totally willing to give the shot to that upper echelon who wants to break into the mid-level pro. I think that area, there's far more of those people than there are people at your level and above. You get what I mean? Our level and above, the funnel gets a lot smaller. And then most of those guys are going overseas. But that just above amateur to semi-pro, pro, entry-level pro, Canada and the United States, we're stocked full of those guys. And let's give those guys an opportunity at the big stage and see who rises, who funnels up. You could say like you yourself, Corey West, Chance Shaw, BJ, Wayne Withers, Mega Mike. Like, that's the new crop that's going to be pushing into that elite. You know what I mean? And then who's just below that? Let's get those guys, you know what I mean? And bring them up. Because right now, to get a spot, I mean, Engen puts a shit ton of matches together, but he's got so many elite and only so many spots per show. So there's got to be something below that can fucking, and I'm not worried necessarily about being a feeder system for East versus West. I think America is plenty strong enough in its you know, like we can make our own Devon Larratt's, we can make our own Levon Sagnashvili's right here.
Right.
And because if we get regular television, like not just, you know, Core Sports or Prem Stream or any of these, you know, if we can get it on TV, then the best arm wrestlers in the world will be the ones that are actually being seen by the masses, because no one else is, you know what I mean? Like as big as Devin is, his following still is like what, 2 million people. But if we were if we had Derek Smith on a Mac table every week on ESPN, who's the most popular arm wrestler in the world? Derek Smith.
Yeah.
Whether anyone wants, well, like we all know what the truth is, but the guy who's, you know, watching it at home, he's going to think Derek Smith is the best arm wrestler in the world. Why? Because Derek Smith is on ESPN.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. How were you received? I think I saw you at Knuckles Up and East vs. West. Did you go to both of those?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How did those other promotions? Good relations. Everybody was friendly and everything worked out well.
So, yeah, like better, like okay. So there's a long story about like Engen and I had a little bit of beef, and it was misunderstanding, and it all had to do with those guys that started Global Elite. Okay, we were all fighting for that sponsorship, but I didn't know that Engen was trying to get those guys.
All right.
I was brought in as a consultant to build a league for these millionaires. So that's where Mac comes from. You want to hear something funny? The word Mac exists because one of these guys is married into the McCain Food Company, and I thought he'd like it. So the acronym around the trying to say, hey, like you'll like it because it's Mac, right? McCain, blah blah blah, and they went with Magna, and they so that's fine. But now that I put all this legwork in and designed a new team, so the whole thing was they want to know why arm wrestling isn't bigger than it is. And I said, well, one, there's way too many stoppages in play. And as soon as a match gets good, someone elbow fouls a little bit and they stop it. And it kills the momentum and fans don't understand, right? So instead of, whenever there's a problem, you don't just come up to the person and say, this is the problem. Go get a solution. Tell them what the problem is and say, well, here's what I believe is the solution. That's what I did. You get what I mean? So here's a problem, but I believe that this table will answer some of those problems. And the rule set, obviously. I don't know if you, Derek, after, if you want, I can, I'll text you the actual league rules so you can review them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And when we talk about the micro fouls, one thing I think about when I think of other combat sports, be it, you know, MMA or even boxing, I kind of think of micro fouls in the same way that I think of how a ref kind of just breaks you up for a second, but you keep fighting, you know, like more like how it is in, say, one of our team practice matches. Watch the elbow, your elbow's floating, you know. I see it making a little bit more sense. Obviously, it would be a lot easier to handle with your table, but you know, if you're talking about something like that, it's like a warning, but you're not stopping the match. It's like,
yeah,
watch the elbow.
We don't have a running foul system, but we have a running warning system. Now I'll explain. When you look at the depression in the table, it's a 75-degree grade, right, from tabletop to where the elbow pad is. However, between that grade and the elbow pad, there's a 3/4-inch border. And the reason I did that was so that when your elbow comes off, you'll hit that border and it tells you, hey, I need to get back on, right? And the other thing is if you don't have that border, then when guys start to go into a hook, or they can actually rest their forearm on the slope, and I don't want that either. But that border makes it so if you try to rest, well, you're gonna pin yourself, because if you make contact with the elbow pad and you try to hit the border, you'll parallel pin yourself. So my previous iteration of my table before this last version didn't have the border, and guys were like, look, I don't know if this is going to work, because I can have my elbow on the pad and my forearm touch the slope. And I'm like, yeah, no, we can't do that. That's no good. And then I almost cried because I was like, God damn it, I was this close to solving the problem. And then John McAlpine's like, just put a border. And I still didn't understand. He's like, yeah, he put a border because then if they're maintaining contact with the pad and they go down, and then he showed me and it worked perfectly. And there you go.
There you go.
And so the running warning is, so if I come off my pad and I hit that slope a bit and I recorrect, no problem, not even a warning. If I hit the warning track, if you will, the border, and I stay there or I start to slide up the slope, the referee will warn you. You must immediately come back. If you don't, that's a foul. All right. And all fouls are stop fouls.
Perfect.
I'm excited to see it. And are you streaming? Do you have a streaming service, or you guys doing pay-per-view or no?
Yeah, we are. So we're gonna use Aussie. I believe we're gonna use Aussie for the prelims, so everyone can head over his channel and see the prelim. And so they're gonna be amateur matches, and then finish with 2 professional matches, including Evan Burgoyne to kick off to get into the pay-per-view, right? And just because he's entertaining. Then we'll have pay-per-view on Prem Stream. That's like for lack of better, that's my core sports, right? And then after that, when the pay-per-view is done, we're gonna stream live the tournament. So there's a lot of arm wrestling, but part of this is to prove that my rule system and table can run through things very quickly. You get what I mean? I don't know if you've seen my proof of concept match. They showed it earlier on the show, and there was basically six rounds with proper time between rounds, and the whole thing took 11 minutes.
Wow, dude. That's good. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Streamlining it, getting it quick and watchable.
And not all matches are going to go full 5 rounds, right? Not all matches are going to go full 5 rounds. So it's like, if a guy wins 3 straight, that might be 6 minutes,
right?
So, and the thing is like, I don't know about you, but I do have a hard time sitting through very long setups. Like it does bother me. And that's just me, maybe other people like that. Some people enjoy watching the little minutiae and all the little things that are going on in the setup. I know what's going on because I've been there, but I'd rather just hear go and watch a couple guys fight it out,
Right.
And so I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and hopefully it's successful. I hope there's a portion of the population that agrees with me, and if that is significant enough, then I'll roll with those dudes, and I don't care. We'll just be our own little clique, and we'll fucking have fun, and it can be that way, But if more people enjoy it and it becomes a bigger thing, well, we'll do that too.
Well, keep doing what you're doing in terms of hit all the podcasts, get your voice out there as much as you possibly can, promote this thing as much as you possibly can.
Yeah,
definitely the way. That's gonna be the way to get this.
You haven't seen that match, have you, Derek?
I'll send it to you. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. I really do think, what Derek is saying is very true, because resorting back to what you were talking about with some of the athletes, they might not be social media savvy or whatever. There are a lot of people in this community that are, whether they're athletes for your event or not, that would gladly, follow you, promote you, and do all that. So yeah, you just actively reaching out to them, and obviously, we're going to do what we can. But I think you'll get a full force behind you.
If you want, we'll give you your own promo code, and it'll be the same as the athletes. Like, I'll get Matthias to make you up a promo code, and it'll be the same as the athletes. You sell anybody that purchases a pay-per-view with your promo code, you'll get 50% of the profit. Derek's same too. That you just promote it. And that's it. The more people that are promoting and talk, and people say, well, you got too many people doing it. No, listen, we all come from different regions. I'm in Ontario. You're in California. We don't have followers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I find that and this is sad, but I'm deleting friends off my Facebook just so I can add new friends. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's why I had to start the other page, because the other page is like a sports page, so I can add and as much people as I want. But I only have 300 followers on that one, and I got 5,000 on the other one. So I'm not sure what's going on, but
Right.
it can still reach me directly on the Mac page. You know what I mean? So you're still talking to me, but it's just not caught on. Like, well, it's new too, right? But
Also, there's I'm the moderator and admin on Reddit, on the subreddit. There, I have 26,000 people on there talking about arm wrestling. Get either you yourself or get someone to go on there and start posting on there about the Mac and promoting it on there. There's 26,000 arm wrestling fans on there.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll fucking. So what I do, I just go on Reddit and make an
Yeah, you just
account.
go on Reddit, search. It's Reddit / arm wrestling. That's just called an arm wrestling subreddit. And yeah, we got 26,000 people, and it's all nonstop arm wrestling talk. So pop on there, and that's a lot of people that would buy pay-per-views. That's where they're at.
Bro, I will fucking do that tomorrow. Like, obviously not tonight. I gotta get to bed. But thank you for that, Derek. I appreciate it.
I'll sticky it for you too. Meaning I'll put it at the top and I'll make it stay there for a little while so people can see it.
Yeah. Oh, if you could, man, I appreciate that.
I got you.
Thank you.
I have to run and take my daughter to volleyball practice right now. So, guys, Ian, I want to pop in here and say you're awesome. Josh, you're awesome. Kane, you're the man.
Derek.
Love you guys to death.
Well, wait, especially since we both have the same tank
Yeah,
top.
we're like twins. We're twins right now.
Yeah, Josh is almost there. I think we should all do a quick pose here. I'll screenshot it and do a promo for the episode.
The only problem is, Kane, is we don't fill out the tank tops like Derek does, bro. That's
That's
Like
what makes
Ian
it
does,
so
man. Ian's the
amazing.
big one. You see that arm, the ham hockey strip up there? Like
Derek, got me now, Derek. I think you got me. You know, maybe
I think we
5 years.
should do this. We should have Ian put up his big ham hock there, and we'll give you a nice salute. Okay.
Oh yeah.
The three of us. We'll look at you and salute. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Wait, my hands in my way. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
On my screen, he's bottom left. Was he bottom
Oh
left?
no, you need to switch, Derek. So you need to turn the other way. This way. There you go. And
Yeah.
look, yeah. And you, Josh, need to look straight down.
Oh, see.
okay. One more time.
One more time.
One more time.
This is a good idea. We always do this. This is great.
All right, 1, 2, 3. I think we got it. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much, Ian. We'll see you again soon.
I hope to see you again.
Everybody have a
Derek.
great night.
Years. How many years ago was it since we've seen each other?
Oh my god, I don't know. It's been a while. It's since you came out here to practice with the team. That was Kane. Were you here when you came in practice with us?
I think so.
Oh, you weren't even on the team yet. So it was at the second brewery. So I don't know how long since before the hotel. Did you went to the brewery practice? Kane?
2018.
Not that one. It was probably like 6 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So probably about 6 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's gonna change. I promise. We'll see each other soon. I
You are
promise.
welcome here anytime you want to come out. Let me know.
Thank you.
Right on, brother.
All right.
So you guys
All right.
let me know when he's coming down so I can make the drive.
Hey, we'll do.